Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about a real-life monster, one of the most famous man-eaters in history, Gustave the Crocodile. Now the definition of a man-eater is an animal that has become a human serial killer. Many animals can attack humans, but man-eaters are these animals that have incorporated human flesh into their usual diet, so they actively hunt and kill humans. Many of these man-eaters usually have their story blown completely out of proportion and become these huge legends that are larger than life. So I'm going to be doing a short series on these legends and the true stories behind them and why they ended up killing so many people. Throughout this series I'm going to talk about a few different animals such as the Pinar leopard, the Govindon wolf, the Tsavo man-eaters, which are these lions, and the Champawat tiger, which is one tiger that is attributed with killing 436 documented humans. But today, I'm going to be starting with Gustave, the Nile crocodile who is rumored to have killed as many as 300 people. Now, the story of Gustave has a lot going on. On one hand, you have these local people who have been terrorized by Gustave and think that he's completely evil and that he's killed like an absolute ton of people, which he really has. He's killed an obscene amount of people. On the other hand, you have this animal rights activist who first tried to kill Gustave, but then had a change of heart because of how clever he was. And all this is going on in Burundi, which is this tiny landlocked country in Africa, which is just a wild place in general. So let's get into it. First of all, Nile crocodiles are extremely dangerous. They are the largest freshwater predator in Africa and grow on average about 14 feet long, and they're known as being the most aggressive of all crocodile species. But the most dangerous in history of all the Nile crocodiles would have to be Gustave. Gustave lives in the Ruzizi River in a little landlocked country called Burundi. Burundi is famous for extremely diverse landscapes. There's huge lakes, beautiful rivers, grasslands, and mountainous terrains. It's very beautiful, but at the same time, it's about the poorest country in the world, as the average yearly income per person is around $270 as of 2022. So a lot of citizens in Burundi have to live along water for transportation and for water and for food, which obviously causes problems when this country is absolutely dominated by these man-eating reptiles in their waterways. Let's not forget that these things are monsters. I mean, think about it. If you had never seen a crocodile in your life, if you saw one of these things, you would 100% think it's a monster. The only reason we don't think that they are is just because we've categorized all these animals and they've just became normal to us in our daily lives. Anyways, every year there's multiple fatal crocodile attacks in this area, but a large portion of these recent crocodile attacks are believed to be caused by Gustave. Now, Gustave is absolutely not your average Nile crocodile. According to locals, he's as large as 40 feet long and weighs over 1 ton, which in reality he's probably more around just over 20 feet according to more accurate sources. But just like other Nile crocodiles, if Gustave sees you and wants to eat you, you are dead. As Nile crocodiles can run up to 22 miles an hour, there's no chance you're getting away on foot. Earliest reports of Gustave began surfacing around 1987 when villagers around Lake Tanganyika began reporting horrible attacks from a massive crocodile that was over 20 feet long. Which right after 1987, in the 1990s, horrible things began to happen in Central Africa, such as the Rwandan genocide, which left hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people dead. And it's said that after this terrible conflict, military leaders began to order massive amounts of bodies to just be thrown into the surrounding river, which included the Ruzizi River, where the Nile crocodiles then began to thrive off of eating humans. This is where the legend of Gustave began. Maybe feeding these crocodiles all these humans is what caused Gustave to have an appetite for humans and what caused him to grow so large. Now, as Gustave is rumored to be over 20 feet long, even though it's impossible to verify the size for sure, many believe this put his age at close to 100 years old. Which, for reference, crocodiles can get pretty large, and they live on average 50 years, but some can live up to 100 years old or older than 100 years old. But at this point, they usually have all their teeth falling out in their mouth. Which this is not the case for Gustave, as he's said to have a full set of chompers. Which meant that, terrifying enough, he's still young and still growing, as many people think he's around 60 years old. At one point, locals say that because Gustave is so swift and deadly, one time they saw him come out of the water and kill several people in one attack and then just disappear for several months, because, crocodiles, they can just disappear for a year and not eat. Another time, Gustave is reported to have taken down an adult hippopotamus, which is nearly impossible for crocodiles of any size. Hippopotamuses are actually the natural enemy of crocodiles and grow upwards of 3,000 pounds. It's also said that, most terrifying of all, allegedly Gustave wasn't killing humans just for food. Reports in the 90s began to surface that Gustave began leaving human corpses uneaten, implying that he was killing them for no reason, just out of boredom. Some suggest that he was possibly just a picky eater and didn't like the taste of those particular men, women, or children that he left. However, crocodile experts do not believe this. One expert says that crocodiles do not kill for fun, and that the only food they take is taken opportunistically. Anyways, Gustave's legend grew as time went on, and so did the amount of herpetologists and hunters who wanted to track him down. So there began to be reports in the late 1990s and early 2000s that Gustave had several bullet wound scars, which included one that was on top of his head that allegedly came from a gunshot which had failed to kill him. Several African soldiers had reported stories about Gustave through the years about how they had fired upon him with their AK-47s, which one of these reports claimed that Gustave responded to the shots by eating the bullets like a demonic entity that could not be harmed. People began theorizing that if Gustave was as big as people were saying, then theoretically his skin could not be pierced by medium-sized bullets, which AK-47 bullets are fairly large. One other soldier said that the only way to get Gustave to leave you alone is to drop a grenade in the water next to him, and then he will just leave. So there's some good stories for you. But later on, Gustave is said to be seen with a large, deep shoulder wound in his right shoulder, which hindered his movement. It's theorized that this wound, along with the other gunshot wounds that he had, may have caused him to slow down due to his injuries and dulling his reflexes, which caused him to only hunt larger and slower game. So pretty much at this point, every person in Burundi wants Gustave dead. That is, except for Patrice Faye, who is an animal rights activist who's been trying to capture Gustave for over 30 years. At first, Faye had actually tried to kill Gustave, getting very close to doing it multiple times, but became fascinated with how agile and clever Gustave was. In Faye's 2004 documentary called Capturing the Killer Croc, Patrice Faye talks about how he's a herpetologist on a quest to capture Gustave. In the documentary, he theorizes that Gustave has killed over 200 Africans in the area. He set out many traps for him, but all the traps have failed. Faye theorizes that Gustave has been shot at so many times that he distrusts humans and he's just too smart to be fooled. But later on, Faye and his team have to abandon their quest to capture Gustave due to a potential civil war in the area. Now, it's really difficult to differentiate what's really real and what's fiction in all these stories. Gustave has become this huge urban legend like Mothman and the Loch Ness Monster. The way people talk about him like he's some sort of unnatural creature that's murdered their friends or friends of their friends. Some speak about him like a demonic entity, some even giving him the name the Demon Croc. There was even a low-budget movie that was made about him in 2007 called Primeval. They talk about how people claim that he's killed over 300 people, which would be insane for a crocodile. I don't think he's actually killed that many people, because a lot of these stories are hearsay from the Central African villagers who, unfortunately, they did have to live out this nightmare. They really have to live with this crocodile, worrying about if he's going to kill them any day of their lives, and most of this is regarded as gossip. But I think this story of Gustave is a great reminder that monsters do indeed exist among us. The last sighting of Gustave was in 2015. It was an unconfirmed sighting of him dragging an adult buffalo into a riverbank, but some do claim that a group of hunters actually managed to kill Gustave in 2019, but there's no proof or pictures of any of their claims. So the story of Gustave remains unresolved. Anyways, that's all I got on Gustave. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for 56,000 subs. That's awesome. You guys are great. I'm going to do probably 5 more videos in this series, maybe 4, maybe 6, not for sure. Anyways, I hope you guys liked the video. Let me know if you did, and I will see you later, Crocodile.